The basement of Murphy's saloon had been silent for 20 years, until Sheriff Coleman heard a voice that shouldn't exist. What he discovered in those chains would haunt him forever and change everything he thought he knew about the girl they called the Mute. Silver Creek was a small frontier town built on the broken lands of Montana. With its dusty streets, cracked wooden buildings, and saloon filled with ghosts of the past, it was a typical border town. Murphy's saloon stood in the middle of Main Street, a dark heart beating in the town's chest. Sheriff Thomas Coleman, 55 years old, with gray hair and tired eyes, followed the same route every evening. He had represented law in this town for 30 years. He'd lost his wife 10 years ago, had no children. Only his badge, his gun, and the loneliness that walked him home each night. Tonight, like always, he was passing Murphy's saloon. Piano sounds, laughter, and bottle clinking could be heard from inside. But something was different. The air was still, as if the town was holding its breath. But was this beautiful girl really mute? Or was she hiding a more terrifying truth? What Sheriff Coleman would discover tonight would expose the lie the entire town had been living. The inside of the saloon was smoky and loud. Cowboys, miners, and unlucky men were losing money at poker. But everyone's eyes were on the same place: the young girl working behind the bar. Her name was Clara. At least that's what Murphy said. She was in her 20s with long brown hair, green eyes, and a very beautiful face. But her most striking feature was her silence. She had been working in this saloon for 3 years, and no one had ever heard her voice. "Poor girl," whispered old Joe the miner. "God gave her beauty but took her voice." Murphy, the saloon owner, was a fat, foul-smelling man. He treated Clara like a possession he owned. "Better that she's quiet," he would laugh. "Women talk too much anyway." Clara would silently take orders, bring drinks. Her eyes always looked down, never making eye contact with anyone. Her hands trembled, but she tried to hide it. But Murphy's dirty secret wasn't just one girl's silence. How many innocent voices had that basement silenced before? And tonight, would that silence finally be broken? It was past midnight. The streets had emptied, the last drunk had gone home. Sheriff Coleman was again passing Murphy's saloon on his routine patrol. The building was dark, only a weak light seeping from the upstairs window. He stopped. He had heard something, very faint, almost mixing with the wind, humming. Someone was singing. He pressed his ear to the building. The sound was coming from the basement. A very sweet, very sad voice. A woman's voice. "This is impossible," he murmured. Clara couldn't speak. So whose voice was this? Coleman didn't know yet that what he would find in that basement wasn't just a chained girl. There, a truth that would shake the entire town's conscience awaited him. And this truth would change everything. Coleman checked the saloon's back door. It was locked, but an old lock. With experienced fingers, he picked the lock and slipped inside. He went down the basement stairs. The voice was becoming clearer. She was singing a lullaby. Very sad, very beautiful. He illuminated the surroundings with his lantern. The basement was damp and smelled bad. In the corner were old barrels, a table, and chains. And there, chained to the wall, he saw Clara. "My God," Coleman breathed. Clara's hands and feet were chained, her dress torn, her face covered with wounds. She stopped singing and looked at him with fear. Her eyes were filled with terror. "Don't be afraid," Coleman said in a soft voice. "I'm Sheriff Coleman. I'll help you." Clara's lips trembled. Then, in a very weak voice, she spoke, "Please, get me out of here." Coleman's blood froze. The girl could speak. For 3 years, everyone thought she was mute. "You can speak?" "Yes," Clara whispered, "but Murphy silenced me. He said if I spoke, he would kill me." Coleman broke the chains and freed Clara. The girl was very weak, couldn't stand. "Tell me what happened," Coleman said. Clara began to speak tremblingly. "My name isn't Clara. My name is Sarah Mitchell. 3 years ago, my family and I were coming from Kansas. Bandits attacked us on the road. They killed my family, took me and sold me to Murphy. My God! Murphy forces me to work here. During the day in the saloon, at night here chained. He said if I spoke or tried to escape, he would kill me." Coleman's face reddened. "This monster kept you here for 3 years?" "Yes." "Please help me, I want to go home." But Sarah's story was just the beginning of the blood-freezing truth Coleman would learn. Because what Murphy had done wasn't just kidnapping one girl. How many innocent voices had he silenced? Murphy came down the stairs. His lantern illuminated Coleman. "Sheriff, what are you doing here?" "I'm arresting you, Murphy, for kidnapping, imprisonment, and torture." Murphy laughed. "What evidence?" "Clara is just a saloon girl. Her name is Sarah Mitchell, and she can speak." Murphy's face changed. "That's impossible. She's mute." "No," Sarah said in a trembling voice. "You forced me to stay silent." Murphy drew his gun. "Nobody will believe this. I'll kill you and this girl." The footsteps coming from upstairs weren't just Murphy's return. Those sounds were the herald of the moment when 3 years of injustice would end. The reckoning time had come. Coleman was faster. He drew his gun and knocked the weapon from Murphy's hand. The old sheriff wasn't young, but he was experienced. "Surrender, Murphy." Murphy tried to escape, but Coleman caught him. They wrestled on the muddy basement floor. Murphy was strong, but Coleman was determined. Finally, Coleman subdued Murphy and handcuffed him. 3 years, he panted. 3 years you kept this innocent here." Sarah was crying. She was savoring the feeling of freedom. "What happens now?" she asked. "I'll take you to the doctor. Then we'll find your relatives in Kansas." "Thank you, Sheriff Coleman. You are my angel." Coleman smiled. "I just did what was right, child." The news spread through the town. Everyone was shocked when they learned that mute Clara could actually speak and had been kept chained for 3 years. The townspeople rose up against Murphy. The trial was quick. Witnesses supported Sarah's story. Murphy was sentenced to life in prison. "Justice has been served," said the judge. A month later, Sarah was ready to return to Kansas. While boarding the train, she hugged Sheriff Coleman. "You saved my life," she said. "You're a strong girl, Sarah. You managed to survive. You gave me back my voice." Coleman smiled. "Your voice was always there. You just found the courage to use it." While waiting at the train station, Sarah spoke one last time. "Sheriff Coleman, something changed for all of us in this town. You didn't just give me freedom, you gave me back my voice. And now with that voice, I'll shout to the world, I will not stay silent in the face of injustice." The train whistle blew. Sarah waved and set off toward her new life. Coleman watched her go. His loneliness no longer felt so heavy, because he had saved an innocent's voice. Sometimes silence is strength, sometimes it's protection, but it should never be forced. Sarah Mitchell's story shows us that even the darkest chains can be broken because a true voice never really disappears. This silent hero of the Wild West didn't just free her own voice. She freed all voices against injustice. If this story touched the hidden voices in your heart, if you love stories of heroes who stand against injustice, subscribe to our channel. Here, every story is not just about love, but about courage and justice, because true love comes from fighting tyranny. See you in the next story. May your voices be free.